Why do we work harder when we're promised a bonus? Why do children behave better when praised? The answer lies in one of psychology's most powerful learning theories, operant conditioning. Welcome back to the channel. Today we will explore how behavior is shaped by rewards and consequences, from classrooms to corporations and even your own daily habits. What is operant conditioning? Operant conditioning is a type of learning through consequences. In simple terms, you learn to do things that bring rewards and avoid things that bring punishment. Where classical conditioning connects two stimuli, operant conditioning connects a behavior with a consequence. For example, you study hard, you get good grades, you feel proud, and you repeat the behavior. You skip work, get a warning, feel anxious, you try to avoid repeating it. This system of reward and punishment is how societies, schools, and companies all shape behavior, often without us even realizing it. Operant conditioning was developed by American psychologist B.F. Skinner, and he believed that human behavior is not random, it's influenced by what comes after it. He designed an ingenious experiment using what's now called the Skinner box. Inside the box, he placed a hungry rat. When the rat accidentally pressed a lever, a food pellet appeared. Very quickly, the rat learned to press the lever intentionally because it knew it would be rewarded. Skinner realized that the behavior could be increased or decreased based on reinforcement or punishment. And this discovery changed psychology and modern behavior science forever. The key elements of operant conditioning. To understand how it works, let's break down the main components. Behavior, the action being learned or modified. Example, pressing a lever, studying, working, smiling. Consequence, what happens immediately after the behavior, either a reward or a punishment. Reinforcement, anything that increases the likelihood of repeating the behavior. Punishment, anything that decreases the likelihood of repeating the behavior. So, reinforcement builds habits, punishment breaks them. Types of reinforcement. Reinforcement comes in two main types, positive and negative, and both increase behavior. Positive reinforcement, adding something pleasant to encourage the behavior. For example, giving a child candy for cleaning their room. Negative reinforcement, removing something unpleasant to encourage the behavior. For example, you buckle your seat belt and the annoying car alarm stops. Result, you are more likely to buckle up quickly next time. The key point, reinforcement always strengthens a behavior, whether by giving or taking something. Types of punishment. Punishment does the opposite. It aims to reduce a behavior. Positive punishment, adding something unpleasant after a behavior. For example, a teacher scolds a student for being late. Result, the student tries not to be late again. Negative punishment, taking away something pleasant after a behavior. For example, a parent removes a child's video game privileges for misbehaving. Result, the child avoids that behavior to keep their games. So remember, reinforcement increases behavior, punishment decreases behavior. Reinforcement schedules. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. The timing of reinforcement changes how strong the behavior becomes. Skinner discovered several reinforcement schedules. Continuous reinforcement, reward every single time a behavior happens. For example, a vending machine gives you a snack every time you insert money. Great for teaching new behavior, but once rewards stop, the behavior fades quickly. Partial or intermittent reinforcement. Reward occasionally. This makes the behavior stronger and more resistant to extinction. Partial reinforcement has four main types. Fixed ratio, reward after a set number of responses. Let's say every fifth sale, a bonus. Variable ratio. Reward after an unpredictable number. Example would be slot machines. Fixed interval. Reward after a fixed time. Monthly salary. Variable intervals. Reward after random time intervals. Checking your phone for messages. That's why gambling and social media are so addictive. You never know when the reward is coming next. Extinction and spontaneous recovery. If reinforcement stops, the learned behavior eventually disappears. This is called extinction. For example, if your boss stops giving you bonuses for overtime, your motivation fades. But here's the twist: sometimes after a break, the old behavior reappears suddenly. That's spontaneous recovery. Our brains remember what used to work and sometimes test it again. Comparison of classical versus operant conditioning. The association of classical conditioning is between two stimuli, and the association of operant conditioning is between behavior and consequence. The behavior type is involuntary for classical conditioning. The behavior type is intentional for operant conditioning. The main researcher for classical conditioning was Ivan Pavlov, and the main researcher for operant conditioning was B.F. Skinner. Modern applications and everyday examples of operant conditioning. In education, shaping students through feedback. Classrooms are living laboratories of operant conditioning. Teachers constantly shape student behavior through rewards, grades, and feedback. When a teacher praises a student for answering correctly or gives extra credit for effort, that's positive reinforcement. It encourages participation, curiosity, and confidence. When homework is not done and student loses points, that's negative punishment, trying to reduce undesired behavior. Even subtle actions like smiling at a student who raises their hand reinforce that behavior. Over time, the classroom becomes a behavioral ecosystem built on reward loops. Every good job is a small piece of conditioning that builds a lifetime of motivation. Animal training, from simple tricks to life saving skills. Operant conditioning remains the cornerstone of animal training worldwide, from pets to service dogs. A trainer might use a clicker sound, a neutral cue followed by a treat whenever the animal performs a desired action. Soon, the sound alone becomes enough to signal a job well done. Guide dogs for the visually impaired, therapy horses, dolphins at aquariums all rely on Skinner's reinforcement principles. Each correct response earns a reward. Each ignored mistake helps refine behavior. Reward strengthens connection. Repetition builds mastery. In business and workplaces, motivation by design. In offices and organizations, operant conditioning is deeply woven into employee motivation systems. Bonuses and incentives act as positive reinforcement. Public recognition fuels engagement. Warnings or demotions serve as punishment to reduce poor performance. Even digital productivity tools like project dashboards or gamified apps use progress bars, points, and achievements. All forms of reinforced schedules that keep us motivated. Example: sales staff competing for a monthly award, a fixed ratio schedule of reinforcement. Meanwhile, random praise from a manager, a variable interval schedule, keeps morale unpredictable yet exciting. Modern companies don't just manage people, they manage behavioral incentives. In marketing and consumer behavior, marketers are Skinner's spiritual heirs. They design entire campaigns to condition your buying habits. Flash sales, loyalty cards, limited time offers all create reinforcement patterns. When you get a discount or a freebie, your brain releases dopamine, rewarding the act of buying. Soon, you are not just purchasing products, you are chasing that tiny thrill of reward. That's why apps like Starbucks, Amazon, or food delivery platforms use points, levels, and badges. You feel rewarded, so you keep returning. Every reward notification is a psychological lever, pulling you to act again. In healthcare and therapy, in mental health and medical therapy, operant conditioning saves lives. Behavioral therapists use token economies systems where patients earn points or tokens for healthy behavior, like attending therapy, taking medication, or practicing mindfulness. These tokens can be exchanged for privileges or treats. This technique is highly effective in rehabilitation centers, schools for children with autism, and psychiatric hospitals. Even physical therapy uses it. When patients receive praise or progress tracking for completing exercises, it motivates recovery. Sometimes the smallest reward is the start of the biggest transformation. In technology and social media, if there's one industry that mastered operant conditioning, it's social media. Every like, comment, or notification acts as a variable ratio reward system. You never know when the next dopamine hit will come. That unpredictability keeps users checking, scrolling, and posting again and again. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and even gaming platforms are built around Skinner's box in digital form. For example, a YouTuber uploads a video, audience reacts positively. Dopamine surge, then that YouTuber repeats that action. A user refreshes Twitter, sometimes a notification appears, sometimes not, reinforcing endless scrolling. Social media does not just capture your attention, it conditions it. In parenting and child development, parents are natural behaviorists, even if they have never heard of B.F. Skinner. When you praise your child for doing homework or take away TV for misbehavior, you are shaping behavior through operant conditioning. The trick is consistency. Irregular or unpredictable consequences confuse children, while clear, steady reinforcement builds discipline. For example, a child finishes dinner, gets dessert. Positive reinforcement. Throws a tantrum, loses a toy. Negative punishment. The strongest habits are built not from control but from consistent reinforcement. In personal habits and self improvement, you can even use operant conditioning on yourself. Want to work out regularly? Reward yourself after every gym session. Maybe a smoothie or an episode of your favorite show. Over time, your brain links exercise with pleasure. Trying to quit procrastination, remove a small comfort, like phone access, until your task is done, a form of negative reinforcement. This self conditioning approach is at the heart of habit formation apps like Habitica, Duolingo, and Strix. We can train ourselves the same way we train pets or algorithms through patterns of reward and consequence. In everyday life, the invisible web of conditioning. From the way you react to a phone buzz to how you crave a salary raise or avoid a traffic ticket. Operant conditioning is the invisible thread weaving through your daily life. It teaches us that human behavior is not random. It's patterned, learned, and influenced by the feedback we receive. We are all living in our own Skinner boxes. The question is, who is pressing the lever? From classrooms to smartphones, from therapy rooms to boardrooms, operant conditioning is the unseen teacher guiding our behavior every day. Understanding it gives us the power to take back control, to reinforce the good and unlearn the bad. The ethical side of conditioning. While operant conditioning can be powerful, it can also be manipulative if used unethically. Companies and governments can exploit our behavior by rewarding compliance or punishing dissent. That's why psychologists emphasize informed awareness, understanding when and how your actions are being influenced. Let's summarize what we have learned. Operant conditioning is learning through rewards and punishments. Reinforcement strengthens behavior, punishment weakens it. Timing and schedule of reinforcement affects how lasting behavior is. It's used in schools, workplaces, therapy, animal training, and technology. Awareness of conditioning helps us make conscious choices, not automatic ones. So the next time you chase a notification, work late for praise, or train your pet, remember you are part of Skinner's grand experiment. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more psychology based learning videos, and share this with a friend who loves exploring the science of behavior. And comment below on what's a reward or punishment that changed your behavior recently. Now, this is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching if you're still watching. I hope you have learned something new today.